Hi there, this is Sage Queen from GameTours.com, and this is part 4 in a guide to the Adept class for Mass Effect 2. In this guide, I'll be talking about considerations for outfitting your Adept Shepherd in terms of guns and armor, and please note there will be spoilers as to where you'll pick up these items in-game. Before we get going, I want to make a distinction here between equipment stats and equipment use. By equipment use, I mean what the equipment actually does and how it works. So this gun is long range versus this gun is short range, for example. And by stats, I mean the numbers behind the equipment. So for example, this short range gun does 5% more damage than that short range gun. While both stats and use affect gameplay, I think it's pretty clear that the use of the equipment affects your strategy more. Stats is essentially a numbers game. Effectively, it adjusts the difficulty level by buffing Shepard or debuffing Shepard relative to the rest of the game. So if we start with armor, we're going to see it's all about stats. Armor doesn't affect your strategy much, if at all. If you're looking for the best armor for the Adept, then that would be the Blood Dragon armor, which is a downloadable content DLC that came out with the purchase of Dragon Age Origins. It adds plus 10% to shielding and plus 15% to power damage, and if you consider the fact that the Biotic Nemesis specialization adds 15% to power damage, along with other bonuses, you can effectively think of the Blood Dragon armor as Nemesis Jr. in suit form. However, I don't use Blood Dragon armor and never will because it's ugly. Seriously, I didn't spend hours in the character creator making my Shep look awesome just to put her in a tin can and cover her head with a pot. And if you feel the same way, and a lot of people do, then go ahead and use something else. You start with the N7 armor. You can buy interchangeable pieces in shops throughout the game. There's armor available through DLC. You can paint your armor to your liking and outfit your Shep however you please. Again, it's just stats. These pictures, by the way, are from the Femshep Fan Thread, where folks know that having Shepard look fabulous and kick-ass are not mutually exclusive goals. Now, you may have noticed that my Shepard is actually wearing this beat-up old Merc armor that's actually a costume for the NPCs. Might not be to your taste, but I really love it. I feel it suits my Shepard, and it kind of harkened back to the old days when Adepts were all in light armor jumpsuits. A lot of people also will use the hacks for the ini file to add the old N7 armor back to their Shepard, or even to add some really beautiful custom mod meshes of the various NPC armors to their Shepards. You can hack the Coalesce at ini file and add stats back to your armor. Personally, I felt if I was going to go for looks rather than stats, then I was going to go all the way. So I didn't add any stats to that armor at all. My Shepard is essentially rocking insanity in her underwear, thermal underwear though it may be. I went totally for looks. Alright, so maybe that's really girly of me. What can I say? I love fabulous looking armor, and my thought is if I can't beat the game with my character looking the way I want, then I don't want to play. Again, armor is just a stats thing, so you know what? It's just a way of shifting the difficulty level, and I always did like a good challenge. Now, guns on the other hand have varying uses as well as varying stats. Choosing a gun for its rate of fire and or for its range can affect your gameplay strategy, so I always pay close attention to which guns I'm using, when, and why. As I mentioned in video number 2, fast-fire weapons work best against shields and biotic barriers, and slow-fire weapons work best against armor. Both are effective against regular old health. And wouldn't you know it, the Adept conveniently gets access to both types of weapons early on in the game. You begin the game with a pistol, that's the slow-fire weapon, and you quickly get access to a submachine gun, which is your fast-fire weapon. Now, I just like the stats on both of these starter guns. The Shuriken submachine gun in particular shoots in a 3-shot burst, which I found very limiting for a so-called fast-fire weapon. Thankfully, there are gun upgrades available to you pretty early on in the game. The Carnifex heavy pistol is given to you by Mordin during his recruitment mission. It has only 24 shots, so you need to make each of them count, but they do hit hard. For the submachine guns, the Tempest submachine gun, which is a full automatic, can't be accessed until Tally's recruitment mission, which is kind of late in the game. But if you spring for the Kasumi DLC, and it's a fun mission, so I'd recommend getting it, you can go pick up the Kaza Locust submachine gun as soon as you get on Normandy. The Locust is very nice. Some people say it's almost as effective as an assault rifle, carries a lot of ammo. It's a very nice fast-fire gun. Now, when it comes to heavy weapons, what's available to you will depend on what research you've unlocked and what DLC you've purchased. And because the heavy weapon ammo is very limited in the game, and because all classes have access to the same range of heavy weapons, I think that the use of them is much more situationally dependent than it really is class dependent. I feel that the real question becomes, where do you actually want to break out a heavy weapon, and what mobs are difficult enough to warrant it? If you want to know more about that, I would say do a quick search online. There's a lot of discussion threads about heavy weapons and where people like to use them best. With heavy weapons, of course, you can swap them out anytime you find a weapons locker. So if you're finding what you're using isn't working for you, you can change it pretty readily. You can also go back to previous models of guns. But the one decision that you cannot go back from in the game is the decision on which additional weapons specialization you're going to choose for Shepard. About midway through the game, you get access to either assault rifles or shotguns or sniper rifles. It's your choice. And on this choice, there is a lot of passionate argument and debate. Now, as I mentioned in the previous video, I play my Shepard like a biotic quarterback from American football, where I take her skills, particularly Singularity, as a starting point and use them to create powerful plays that she can apply to battlefield situations. For that reason, I want my guns to complement the use of her biotic skills, and I personally feel that the assault rifle is the gun that best does that. But there are reasons that people take the other two guns. Shotguns do major damage at close range. Shields, barriers, you name it, they'll take it out. But the further you get from the target, the less effective they are. They're most effective at point-blank range, where they'll give you plus 100% bonus damage. Adepts who take shotguns are often modeled after the old-school Singularity Vanguards from Mass Effect 1. From what I've seen of these builds, they're very aggressive, in-your-face styles of play. You get in close, you stun people with your skills, particularly Warp and or Reave, and then you blast people to Kingdom Come with the shotgun. The challenge that the shotgun adept will run into is a tension between needing to get in close to make your shotgun effective, and the fact that a lot of the adept skills, as I argued in the last video, are most effective, I feel, at the mid-range. Especially Singularity, it will collapse if you get within point-blank range of it, and again, that shotgun will get its best damage at point-blank range. So the shotgun adept is going to have to come up with a good strategy for how to capitalize on both its gun strengths and on the existing biotic adept strengths. Now, the sniper rifle, on the other hand, places Shepard at long range, perhaps even longer range than the adept would be otherwise. The sniper rifle will rip through just about any kind of protection, much like the shotgun will, with the difference, of course, being that it's effective at that very long range. It has a very slow firing rate, don't have a whole lot of bullets, so you have to be precise and make each of them count, but they are very powerful, and you frequently can take one shot and make one kill with it. I actually took sniper rifles on my hardcore adept run, and I had a lot of fun at first taking out enemies with headshots. You can also sight down the sniper barrel using that telescopic lens to pinpoint your biotic skills on targets at the far end of the battlefield. The challenge for the sniper rifle adept, I think, is going to be jumping back and forth between two ways of thinking about gameplay. Looking down that telescopic scope can, I think, really break your ability to focus on the mid-range battlefield, which, as I argued, is where the adept skills are best suited to. Sniping also lends itself to this one-shot, one-kill, one-at-a-time approach to combat, but Singularity just begs to be pulling in multiple targets at once. I found when I was using the sniper rifle, I was either using it exclusively, and if I did stop to use a Singularity, I would then want to swap out to another gun, because sniping an enemy out of a Singularity is complete and utter overkill, or I'd have to rely on my squad mates to take care of that enemy. So in my experience, sniping really lends itself to one style of play, whereas the adept skills, particularly Singularity, lead to another. And so this is my concern in a nutshell for the shotgun and for the sniper rifle. They can be used, but I feel that they really require you to tweak the adept build to suit the gun, rather than taking the adept skills, particularly Singularity, as the starting point and finding a gun that best suits them. So in my experience, if you're going to stick with the best all-rounder for the adept's class, you're going to want to pick the assault rifle. The assault rifle is a nice, reliable weapon. It's perfect for the mid-range fighter. It's effective at middle ranges, and it doesn't cause you to go in and out of any kind of scope. It also carries a good amount of ammo, always a plus, and it's a fast-fire weapon, which is very effective against those pesky shields, which, as I argued in video number 2, is the adept's particular bane. Okay, for stats for the assault rifle, by the time you get access to it, you'll be able to skip over the entry model, which is the M8 Avenger, and right on to the M15 Vindicator. If you do Tally's recruitment mission on hardcore or insanity difficulty, you'll unlock the Pulse rifle, but its advantages are debatable. Most folks are going to say that the Matic from the Firepower DLC is the way to go, but I actually can't confirm that because I ran out of BioWare points buying the Lair of the Shadow Broker DLC, and I didn't feel like buying more points just to get myself an extra gun or two. And the Vindicator, frankly, it works just fine. It kept me company all the way through Endgame, and I was glad to have it with me. So going back to the earlier distinction between use and stats, I would say when it comes to guns, make sure you got a good fast-fire weapon, make sure you got a good slow-fire weapon, and use them appropriately against enemy protection. When it comes to heavy weapons, you can decide which enemies you find the most difficult to deal with, and you can save up your heavy weapon ammo for the worst of the boss mobs. When it comes to your weapon specialization, I would recommend that unless you have a really particular strategy for dealing with the disadvantages that shotguns and sniper rifles bring to the rest of the Adept's arsenal, that your best bet is to complement your given skills with the assault rifle. When it comes to armor, however, that's simply a stat thing, so pick something that's going to make you and your shep happy. From Game Tours, this is Sage Queen. Happy hunting.